How American farm boys outmaneuvered Nazi Germany's elite engineering corps. The twin boom truth they never saw coming. February the 23rd, 1937. 0914 hours. Right field, Dayton, Ohio. Hauptingenieur Heinrich Krauss adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, pulled the intercepted American specification closer. The translated document laid bare the U.S. Army Air Corps' fever dream, a pursuit aircraft reaching 360 miles per hour at 20,000 feet. Range, 1,000 miles minimum. He laughed, actually laughed. The sound echoed across his office at the Reichsluftfahrtministerium in Berlin. His assistant, Werner, looked up from the drafting table. "Sir?" Krauss slid the paper across polished mahogany. "The Americans want a fighter that flies faster than anything we've built, climbs like a rocket, and has the range of a bomber. I buy it 2 engines." 2 engines on a fighter? Exactly. Krauss lit a cigarette. Temperature outside, -4 Celsius. His breath mixed with smoke. Physics doesn't care about American optimism. Twin-engine fighters are heavy, sluggish. The British learned this with their Whirlwind. The Dutch with their GI, even our own Bf 110 trades maneuverability for firepower. He tapped ash into crystal. This Lockheed proposal, this P-38 Lightning they're calling it, it violates every principle of fighter design. The twin booms? Absurd. The tricycle landing gear? Experimental foolishness? Counter-rotating propellers? The torque problems alone will ground half their fleet. Werner studied the schematic. The aircraft looked like something a child drew. 2 fuselages, engines mounted in nacelles, central pod for the pilot. But sir, what if they won't. Krauss crushed the cigarette. Mark my words. By 1940, this abomination will be a footnote, a curiosity in aviation journals. The Americans will return to conventional designs, and we will have already won the air war with proven technology. He filed the document, turned back to the Messerschmitt Bf 109 improvements on his desk. Outside, snow fell on Berlin. Inside, Germany's leading fighter analyst had just made the most expensive miscalculation of the war. What Heinrich Krauss didn't know, what no one in the Luftwaffe High Command understood, was that 7,000 kilometers away in Burbank, California, a 27-year-old engineer named Kelly Johnson had already solved every problem Krauss thought unsolvable. And the solution was so simple, so elegant, so counterintuitive. It would make Germany's finest pilots scream into their radios for reinforcements. August 1937. Burbank, California. The temperature hit 38 degrees Celsius. Clarence Leonard. Kelly Johnson stood in Hangar B1, staring at a wooden mock-up that looked like it had been designed by 2 different people who never spoke to each other. His shirt stuck to his back. The smell of wood glue and metal shavings filled the air. He was 27 years old. Hall Hibbard, Lockheed's chief engineer, approached. Footsteps echoed on concrete. "Army says it's impossible," Hibbard said. "Everyone says it's impossible." Kelly traced the twin-boom design with calloused fingers. Every major manufacturer turned down the specification. Curtiss, Boeing, Consolidated. They all said you can't build a 400-mile-per-hour fighter with twin engines that can also climb to 20,000 feet in 6 minutes. Can we? Kelly smiled. That farm boy smile from Ishpeming, Michigan. Son of Swedish immigrants who worked the copper mines. The kid who taught himself calculus while his father swung a pickaxe. We already have. He grabbed chalk. Started drawing on the floor. Everyone's thinking about this wrong. They see twin engines and think heavy. Think Bf 110. Think Whirlwind. All that weight in the fuselage, all that drag. He drew a conventional fighter. But what if the chalk moved? We don't put the engines in the fuselage. We mount them in dedicated nacelles. Extend the tail booms back from the engines. Use the booms themselves as structural members. The center pod stays light. Aerodynamic. We get twin engine power with single engine maneuverability. Hibbard leaned closer. The Army will never. The Army doesn't understand what we're building. Kelly's voice dropped. Intense. Those counter-rotating props everyone's worried about, they eliminate torque. The pilot flies straight. No wrestling. The twin booms? They give us a platform for concentrated nose armament. 4.50 caliber machine guns plus a 20 mm cannon, all firing through the propeller arc. No synchronization needed. He stood. Dust motes danced in shaft light through the hangar door. And the range. Hibbard, the range. Kelly's eyes lit up. We're putting fuel tanks in the wings and the center section. This thing will fly 1,300 miles. That's deeper than any fighter's ever gone. We're not building an interceptor. What are we building? Air Supremacy, December 1938. Mines Field, Los Angeles. The XP-38 sat on the runway. Ben Kelsey, the Army test pilot who'd actually written the specification this aircraft was designed to meet, walked around it slowly. Temperature, 14 degrees Celsius. Overcast. The smell of aviation fuel and possibility. It looked wrong. Everything about it looked wrong. The twin booms made it look pregnant. The Tricycle landing gear, first time on a fighter, made it look like a commercial airliner's confused cousin. The engines, those Allison V1710S, growled at idle. 1,150 horsepower, each. "You're sure about this?" Kelsey asked. Kelly Johnson stood beside him, hands in pockets. "The math is sure. Math can't fly." "Good thing we built an airplane then." Kelsey climbed into the cockpit. The center pod felt claustrophobic. All instruments. No engine directly in front like conventional fighters. Just nose, glass, and sky. The engines spooled up. That unique sound, not quite in sync despite the counter-rotation. A harmonic throb that would later terrify soldiers in jungles and deserts. At 14:02 hours, the XP-38 lifted off. Kelsey's hands were gentle on the yoke. The nose came up. Landing gear retracted. And then it flew. Not lumbered, not wallowed. It flew like something 2,000 pounds lighter. The controls responded. Crisp, immediate. He pushed the throttles forward. The engines sang. Airspeed climbed. 300 miles per hour, 350, 400. 400 miles per hour. Kelsey started laughing into his oxygen mask. On the ground, Kelly Johnson checked his watch, wrote something in a notebook. Didn't smile. Not yet. The XP-38 climbed to 20,000 feet in 6 minutes flat. Did exactly what everyone said was impossible. January the 27th, 1939, Mitchell Field, New York. The transcontinental speed record attempt. Kelsey pushed the XP-38 hard. Really hard. From California to New York in under 7 hours. The engines screamed. Altitude, 25,000 feet. Temperature outside, minus 40 degrees Celsius. Inside the cockpit, barely warmer. His fingers went numb. Then the engines quit. Both of them, simultaneously. Fuel starvation on final approach. Kelsey dead-sticked it into a golf course. Wheels up. The aircraft slid across frozen grass. Came to rest against a sand trap. Crushed the nose. Destroyed the propellers. But the wings stayed on. The booms stayed attached. The structure held. Kelly Johnson got the telegram at 18:47 hours Pacific Time, read it twice, walked outside the Lockheed plant, lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "How bad?" Hibbert asked. "Aircraft destroyed. Kelsey's fine. And what?" Kelly took a drag, exhaled smoke into California night. It held together, 4,200 miles in 7 hours, engines failing at 25,000 feet, wheels up landing on frozen ground, and the airframe held together. "That's good? That's better than good. That's proof." He crushed the cigarette. "The Germans think this design is weak, fragile. They think those twin booms will snap. But Kelsey just proved our structure can take punishment that would destroy a conventional fighter." They walked back inside, past drafting tables covered in P-38 improvements, past engineers working double shifts. "How many variants are we planning?" Hibbert asked. Kelly smiled. Actually smiled. "As many as it takes." April 1941, Burbank. The first production, the 38s, rolled off the assembly line. Paul Hibbert stood on the floor, watched mechanics rivet aluminum, the smell of hot metal and ambition. Temperature, 21 degrees Celsius. Perfect California weather. Kelly approached with a file folder. "The Army wants to know how many we can build." "What did you tell them?" 10,000. Hibbert whistled. "We've got orders for 673. Today." Kelly opened the folder, showed him projections. "By December, we'll be at war. By 1943, every theater will be screaming for P-38s, the Pacific especially. Twin engines mean safety over water. Range means escort missions. Firepower means ground attack." "And Europe?" Kelly's smile faded. "Europe's going to be complicated." He was right. Europe would be very, very complicated. August 15th, 1942, 0847 hours, Iceland. The first fighter group's P-38Fs landed at Keflavik. First American fighters in the European theater. The pilots, farm boys from Iowa, mechanics from Detroit, college kids from California, climbed out of cockpits that had kept them airborne for 7 hours. Nobody had flown a fighter across the Atlantic before. Captain Robert Johnson pulled off his leather helmet. Temperature, 8 degrees Celsius. Fog rolling off black sand beaches. "My hands went numb 3 hours ago." "Your face went numb," Lieutenant Marcus said. "Did you see yourself in the mirror? Purple, like a bruise." The P-38's cockpit heating was inadequate. That was the polite word. The real word was non-existent. Heat was supposed to duct from the engines through those long twin booms. Except physics doesn't care about design intentions. By the time warm air traveled from engine nacelles to center pod, it was barely lukewarm. At 25,000 feet, pilots froze. Their fingers turned white. Frostbite crept in. Some lost toes. Others couldn't grip the control stick properly after 4 hours. The Germans would learn about this weakness. Eventually. November 7th, 1942. Algeria. Operation Torch. American forces hit North Africa. P-38s flew combat air patrol over the landing beaches. Oberleutnant Klaus Neumann spotted them first. "Achtung! Unknown fighters, 3 o'clock high." His Bf-109 G2 banked hard. Rolled. The formations closed. Then Neumann saw it. Got him Himmel. 2 fuselages, twin engines, center pod, flying in tight formation like they owned the sky. "What are those?" his wingman asked. "I don't know. Engage! The first encounter lasted 11 minutes. The P-38s dove. Fast. Really fast. Neumann tried to follow. His 109 shuddered. Airspeed hit 650 kilometers per hour. He pulled back. The Lightning kept diving. 400 miles per hour. 420. 450. Neumann's 109 couldn't follow. Not at that angle. Not at that speed. The airframe would disintegrate. The P-38 pulled out at 2,000 feet. Climbed away. Those twin engines pushed it vertical. Neumann watched it disappear into sun glare. His radio crackled. "Klaus, did you see that?" "I saw it." "What do we do?" "Excellent question. Designation: Lockheed P-38 Lightning. Power plant: 2 Allison V1710 engines, 1,425 horsepower each. Maximum speed: 666 kilometers per h, 414 miles per hour. Range: 2,092 kilometers, 1,300 miles. Ceiling: 13,000 meters, 44,000 feet. Armament: 4.50 caliber machine guns, 120 mm cannon, all nose-mounted. Hauptmann Georg Wunderlich briefed his squadron at Bizerte. February 12, 1943. Temperature: 18 degrees Celsius. Mediterranean sun bleeding through hangar doors. The Americans call it lightning. We'll call it Gabelschwanz Teufel, fork-tailed devil. Is that official? Someone asked. Does it matter? Wunderlich tapped the intelligence photograph. This aircraft violates conventional fighter doctrine. Twin engines make it heavy, but somehow it climbs like a 109. The twin booms should create drag, but it dives faster than anything we fly. And that range? He lit a cigarette. Smoke curled toward corrugated metal ceiling. That range means they can escort bombers deeper than we thought possible. It means they can patrol for hours, hunt us over our own airfields. So how do we fight it? Wunderlich smiled. Not a happy smile. We outturn it. The P-38 is fast. Fast in a straight line. But in a turning fight, at low altitude, our 109S and 190S can outmaneuver it. Stay below 5,000 meters. Force them into horizontal combat. Split their formations. And if they don't turn, then they don't turn. That was the problem. The P-38 pilots weren't stupid. They knew their aircraft, knew its strengths. Speed, climb, firepower. They fought accordingly. Boom and zoom. Dive from altitude. Fire that concentrated nose armament. All 5 guns converging on a single point. Then use twin engine power to climb away. Don't dogfight. Don't get slow. Don't turn when you can climb. The Germans expected chivalrous aerial duels. The Americans delivered industrial murder. April 10, 1943, Tunisia. The sky above the coastal highway turned into chaos. German trucks fled toward Tunis. Supplies, ammunition, fuel. Everything Field Marshal Rommel needed to keep the Afrika Korps fighting. Then the P-38s arrived. 16 of them, 82nd Fighter Group, flying at 1,500 feet. Major William Leverett led the formation. Temperature in his cockpit, 32 degrees Celsius. Sweat soaking his flight suit. All right, boys, make every round count. They dove. 4.50 caliber machine guns, 120 mm cannon, all firing forward. The Lightning strafed the highway at 350 miles per hour. Trucks exploded. Fuel tankers erupted in orange fireballs. German soldiers scattered into sand dunes. Leverett's P-38 vibrated with recoil. The nose guns, all 5 of them mounted in that central pod, created a cone of destruction 200 meters long. No synchronization problems, no timing issues. Pull trigger. Things die. He made 3 passes. By the 4th, the F-109S arrived. Bandits, 4 o'clock high. Leverett yanked the stick. Both Allison engines screamed. The P-38 went vertical. That's the move the Germans never expected. Twin-engine fighters weren't supposed to climb like that. Too heavy. Too much drag. But those counter-rotating props eliminated torque. The pilot could firewall both throttles and climb straight up. No roll, no yaw, just pure vertical acceleration. The Bf-109 tried to follow. Couldn't. Leverett rolled at the top, came down on the 109's tail, fired. The German fighter disintegrated. By April 13th, the Tunisian campaign was over. The Afrika Korps surrendered. P-38s claimed 608 enemy aircraft destroyed in the Mediterranean theater, against 131 lightning losses. 4.6 to 1 kill ratio. In Berlin, Heinrich Krauss read the intelligence reports. Didn't laugh. Not this time. April 18, 1943, Bougainville Island. Operation Vengeance. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of Pearl Harbor, commander of the Japanese Combined Fleet, was flying to inspect forward bases. American codebreakers knew his exact route, his precise schedule, down to the minute. 18 P-38, Girao Fihasian. These launched from Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. Distance to intercept point, 435 miles, over open ocean, at 50 feet, altitude to avoid radar. Major John Mitchell navigated with a compass and a watch. No GPS, no fancy electronics, just math and courage. 0934 hours. The formation spotted 2 Mitsubishi G4M Betty bombers escorted by 6 Zeros. Captain Thomas Lanphier Jr. pulled back the stick. His P-38 climbed. The Bettys tried to run. Too slow. Lanphier closed to 300 meters. Fired. The first Betty's left wing exploded. It rolled, dove, crashed into jungle canopy. Inside that aircraft, Admiral Yamamoto. The man who planned Pearl Harbor died in the wreckage, killed by a twin-engine fighter everyone said would never work. When news reached Washington, Secretary of War Henry Stimson made a note. The P-38 has proven its value beyond all expectation. In Burbank, Kelly Johnson heard about the mission, walked outside, lit a cigarette, cried, just for a minute. But Europe was different. December 1943, England, 8th Air Force bases. The P-38Hs arrived. Pilots climbed into cockpits, took off for bomber escort missions over Germany. Altitude, 25,000 to 30,000 feet. Temperature, minus 40 degrees Celsius. And everything went wrong. The engines failed, constantly. High-altitude cold caused intercooler icing. Oil congealed. Turbochargers quit. Pilots couldn't manage both engines simultaneously while also flying formation, watching for bandits, and shivering violently from inadequate cockpit heat. Lieutenant James Howard landed at Debden after a Berlin raid. Climbed out. His flight surgeon took one look at his hands. Hospital. Now. I'm fine. Your fingers are black. Frostbite. 3rd degree. 2 fingers would be amputated. The P-38 had conquered the Pacific, set records, killed Yamamoto. But in the frozen skies over Germany, America's fastest fighter was failing. And the Germans knew it. January the 24th, 1944. Luftwaffe Command Briefing Room, Berlin. Oberst Johannes Steinhoff addressed his pilots. Temperature outside, minus 12 degrees Celsius. Inside, barely warmer. Fuel shortages meant minimal heating. The Americans have a problem. He pointed to gun camera footage. P-38s struggling at altitude. Engines smoking, leaving contrails that made them visible from 40 kilometers away. The Lightning works in Africa. It works in the Pacific. Here, he smiled. Here, it freezes. Their engines fail. Their pilots lose fingers to frostbite. The aircraft is fast, yes, but at 9,000 meters they can't keep pace with our 109S and 190S. And in a dive, he played another film clip. A P-38 diving on a German formation, reaching 650 kilometers per hour. Then, suddenly, buffeting. Loss of control. The tail surfaces fluttered. The aircraft pulled up violently, almost tore itself apart. Compressibility, Steinhoff said. At high speeds in a dive, the P-38's thick wing creates shock waves. The controls reverse. Pull back on the stick. The nose goes down. The Americans call it Mach tuck. We call it a design flaw. Exploit it. The pilots nodded. They'd seen it. P-38s diving fast, then suddenly unable to maneuver. Easy targets. So we've won? Someone asked. Steinhoff stubbed out his cigarette. In Europe? Perhaps. But he pulled out a map, pointed to the Pacific. Sicily, North Africa. Everywhere else, they're murdering us. But Lockheed was listening. February 1944, Burbank. Kelly Johnson stood over a P-38J prototype. Engineers swarmed around it, the smell of solder and coffee. Temperature in the workshop, 19 degrees Celsius. "Show me the fixes," he said. An engineer named Harrison pointed to the engines. New intercoolers, revised ducting, oil cooling system upgraded, engine failure rate drops by 80%. Cockpit heat. Completely redesigned. Direct heat from engine manifolds. Insulated ducting. The pilots won't freeze anymore. Compressibility? Dive flaps. Harrison indicated small surfaces on the wing underside. Deploy at high speed. They disrupt shock wave formation. Give control authority back. The pilots can dive as fast as they want now. Kelly nodded. Moved to the next station. "Fire and forget," another engineer said. "That's what we're building. The P-38J has everything the Pacific Theater proved works, with all the European theater problems solved. How many can we build per month? 400. Make it 500. By March 1944, P-38Js arrived in Europe. The pilots who'd frozen in H models climbed into J models and found warmth. The engines that had failed constantly now ran smoothly. The dive problems? Gone. But it was too late. The P-51 Mustang had arrived, and the Mustang did everything the P-38 did, with one engine instead of two. Cheaper, simpler, easier to maintain. European P-38 squadrons transitioned to Mustangs. The Lightning went where it was wanted, where it was needed, where it had always excelled. The Pacific. June 15, 1944. Saipan. Major Richard Bong had 28 confirmed victories, all in P-38s. He flew a Lightning named Marge after his fiancée. Temperature at 20,000 feet, minus 30 degrees Celsius. In the J-model cockpit, comfortable. His hands stayed warm. The engines purred. Turbocharged perfection. Bogies, 3 o'clock. Japanese A6M0s, 16 of them, coming fast. Bong smiled, pushed the throttles forward. The P-38 accelerated. 350 miles per hour. 380. 400. The Zeros couldn't follow. Their top speed? 350 miles per hour. The Lightning pulled away effortlessly. Bong climbed 22,000 feet, 24,000, 26,000. The Zeros couldn't reach him. Their service ceiling? 38,000 feet, in theory. In practice, at 24,000 feet, they wallowed, engines gasping for oxygen. The P-38 still climbing? Bong rolled. Dove. The dive flaps deployed automatically. He controlled the descent, targeted a zero. The nose guns converged. 4.50 cals and 120 mm cannon spoke. The Zero came apart. He pulled out, climbed again, twin engines screaming. By October 1944, Richard Bong had 40 confirmed victories. America's ace of aces. Every single one in a P-38. Major Tommy Maguire, also flying Lightnings, reached 38 victories. Number 2. The P-38 had lost Europe, but it owned the Pacific. July 26, 1944, Rechlin, Germany. Hauptmann Franz Schiess landed his Bf-109G, climbed out, ground crew rushed over. Schiess, how'd it go? Schiess pulled off his helmet. His face was pale. I fought a Lightning over Munich. And I'm alive because he ran out of ammunition. The crew looked confused. Explain, his commander said. Schiess lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I dove on him, full speed. He saw me, turned. I thought I had position. Then he just went. He gestured with both hands, upward, violent. Vertical climb, both engines. I tried to follow, stalled at 5,000 meters. He kept climbing, turned at the top, came down on my tail. You said he ran out of ammunition. That's the only reason I'm standing here. Schiess took a long drag. The Americans told us this aircraft was vulnerable. Too big, too heavy. They lied, or they were flying the wrong models. Because what I fought today, that was no heavy fighter. That was a killer. His commander nodded slowly. The J model. Intelligence says they fixed the problems. Fixed them? They perfected it? Major Thomas Maguire Jr. led a flight of 4 P-38s hunting. Always hunting. They found a Japanese supply convoy, 12 trucks, 2 fuel tankers, Maguire's Lightning Dove. The nose guns erupted. Trucks exploded. He pulled up, rolled, dove again. 3 passes. The convoy ceased to exist. A Zero appeared. Maguire turned inside it. That's the move everyone said the P-38 couldn't do. Too big, too heavy, turns like a bus. Except Maguire had learned. The P-38 couldn't outturn a Zero at slow speed, but at high speed, with altitude, with those counter-rotating props, it turned just fine. He fired. The Zero disintegrated. Victory number 38. He was 2 victories behind Bong. So close to becoming America's ace of aces. So close. On January 7th, 1945, Tommy Maguire pushed too hard. Tried to outturn a Zero at low altitude. His P-38 stalled. Crashed into the jungle. He died chasing glory. The P-38 didn't fail him. He failed the P-38. Heinrich Krauss sat in his office, the same office where, 8 years earlier, he'd laughed at the P-38 specifications. Now, Soviet artillery shook dust from the ceiling. Temperature, 14 degrees Celsius. The heating had been off for a month. An aide brought the final intelligence summary. The Lightning, sir. Final combat record. Krauss read it slowly. Total P-38 production, 10,037 aircraft. European theater, 130,000 sorties. 1. 300-plus enemy aircraft destroyed. Mediterranean theater, 608 enemy aircraft destroyed. Pacific theater, 1. 800-plus enemy aircraft destroyed. China, Burma, India. Theater: 400-plus enemy aircraft destroyed. America's top 5 aces all flew P-38s. He set down the paper, stared at nothing. "Sir?" the aide asked. "I was wrong." "Sir, in 1937, I said this aircraft was impossible, impractical, would never work." Krauss laughed, bitter. "I said the Americans would abandon it by 1940. Outside, Berlin burned. I was very, very wrong." The final numbers paint a picture of industrial dominance. 10,037 P-38s built between 1941 and 1945. Lockheed's Burbank plant peaked at 17 aircraft per day. That's one complete P-38 Lightning every 85 minutes. Assembly line workers, many of them women while the men fought overseas, riveted aluminum and installed engines and tested systems. The smell of hydraulic fluid and paint. The sound of pneumatic tools and radios playing big band music. Room temperature, whatever California gave them. Usually 21 degrees Celsius. Perfect working conditions. In Germany, BMW and Messerschmitt factories worked under Allied bombing, production craters, quality control failures, forced labor from concentration camps who sabotaged components when possible. The Germans built superior fighters, the FW-190D, the Ta-152, the Me-262 jet. They built them in hundreds, not thousands. America built P-38s in thousands and shipped them everywhere and kept them flying. That's the advantage no one talks about. The logistics, the supply chain. Every P-38 squadron had spare parts. Mechanics who understood systems, maintenance manuals written in English, not encrypted German Gothic script. People ask me about the P-38. Was it the best? I don't know. The Mustang was faster. The Thunderbolt took more punishment. The Spitfire outturned everything. But here's what I do know. When you're 500 miles from base, over open ocean, and one engine quits, that second engine brings you home. When you're facing 4 zeros, and you've got 1,000 rounds of .50 caliber plus that 20 mm, you win. When the bomber boys are screaming for help, and you've got 1,300 miles of range, you reach them. The Lightning wasn't the best at any one thing, but it was good at everything. And in a war, that's what wins. We feared the Lightning? No. Feared is the wrong word. We respected it. There's a difference. Early in the war, 1943, North Africa, we thought we understood it. Big twin-engine fighter. Make it turn, exploit the mass. But then you fight it and it doesn't turn when you want it to. It climbs instead. Or dives. And suddenly, you're defensive. And that American farm boy is on your tail with 5 guns pointed at your cockpit. The fork-tailed devil? Yes, some pilots called it that. Is it propaganda? Maybe. Does it matter? When you see those twin booms in your mirror, when you hear your radio operator screaming warnings, when you realize this aircraft is above you and faster than you and has more range than you, you don't care what you call it. You just try to survive it. It was the missions no one remembers. Reconnaissance. The F-4 and F-5 photo reconnaissance variants carried no guns, just cameras, 4 or 5 of them mounted in the nose. These unarmed Lightnings flew deep into enemy territory, alone, taking photographs that would guide bombing raids and amphibious landings and strategic planning. On July 31, 1944, a French pilot named Antoine de Saint-Exupéry took off from Corsica in an F-5B serial number 4268223. His mission: photograph the Rhone Valley. Preparation for Operation Dragoon. the invasion of southern France. He was 44 years old, too old for combat flying by regulations. But Saint-Exupéry had written The Little Prince, had published Wind, Sand, and Stars. The Free French Air Force made exceptions for national treasures. At 0845 hours, his P-38 disappeared over the Mediterranean. No distress call, no wreckage found. For 60 years, mystery. Then in 2000, a fisherman found wreckage. In 2003, divers confirmed F-5B serial 42, 68223. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's Lightning, shot down by a Focke-Wulf FAW-190. The German pilot, Horst Repair, later said, "If I had known it was Saint-Exupéry, I would never have fired. I loved his books." The P-38 didn't save him, but it carried him on his last flight. Unarmed, alone, 400 miles into enemy territory. That's the aircraft Lockheed built. Fast enough to escape, rugged enough to survive, trusted enough to send unarmed into the deadliest skies of the war. By May 8, 1945, the war in Europe ended. By August 15, 1945, the war in the Pacific ended. The P-38 production lines shut down. September 1945. The last Lightning rolled out of Burbank. The workers went home. The factories retooled for civilian aircraft. The war was over. 10,037 P-38s had been built. Most would be scrapped, aluminum recycled, engines sold for surplus. A few found their way into private hands: racers, collectors, museums. In 2025, about a dozen flyable P-38s remain. Their Allison engines still growl. Their twin booms still turn heads. At air shows, people crowd the flight line, take photos, ask pilots what it's like. The pilots always smile, like flying a muscle car with wings. He returned to the States, a hero, Medal of Honor recipient, 40 victories, ace of aces. He married Marge, the woman his P-38 was named after. On August 6, 1945, the same day Hiroshima burned, Bong test flew a Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star jet, the first American operational jet fighter. Also designed by Kelly Johnson. Also built by Lockheed. The engine failed on takeoff. Bong died in the crash. He was 24 years old. Kelly Johnson attended the funeral. Didn't speak, couldn't speak. The pilot who'd proven his twin-engine fighter design, killed by his jet fighter design. 38 victories, too short of Bong, America's second highest scoring ace. McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey bears his name. So does a street in Sebring, Florida, his hometown. Both men flew P-38s exclusively, never transitioned to P-51s or P-47s, believed in the Lightning, mastered it, proved that in the right hands, the impossible twin-engine fighter could dominate the sky. After the P-38, the P-80 Shooting Star, the F-104 Starfighter, the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird. In his office at Lockheed's Skunk Works, he kept a photograph. The XP-38 prototype. January 1939. The aircraft that crashed, but didn't break. Visitors would ask, "Why this photo? You designed so many great planes." Kelly would smile, that farm boy smile from Michigan. Because this was the first time everyone told me something was impossible. And I proved them wrong. Everything after, I already knew impossible just means difficult. He died in 1990, age 80, heart failure. At his funeral, a P-38 performed the missing man formation. 4 aircraft, one pulling up and away, the sound of those Allison engines echoing across Burbank, where it all began. What did the P-38 Lightning really prove? Not that twin-engine fighters can work. We knew that. The Bf-110 worked. The Mosquito worked. The P-61 Black Widow worked. What the P-38 proved was that unorthodox thinking works. In 1937, everyone knew the rules. Fighters are light, single-engine, maneuverable. The British knew it. The Germans knew it. The Japanese knew it. These weren't opinions. These were facts, physics, engineering, common sense. Kelly Johnson looked at those facts and said, "What if we're asking the wrong question?" Everyone asked, how do we make a twin-engine aircraft maneuver like a single-engine fighter? Kelly asked, why should it maneuver like a single-engine fighter? The P-38 didn't outturn Zeros or Bf-109s at low altitude. Didn't need to. It outclimbed them, outdove them, outranged them, brought more firepower, survived engine failures, carried the pilot home when any single-engine fighter would have dropped into the ocean. It was different, and different is frightening, especially to experts who've spent lifetimes mastering the conventional. His engineering notes, thousands of pages analyzing Allied aircraft, sit in Russian archives, declassified in 1992. Researchers found one entry particularly interesting. February 1945, Krauss's final assessment of the P-38. The Americans succeeded where we failed not because they had better materials or superior engineering, but because they were willing to accept solutions that looked wrong. Our Bf-110 was designed to be a fast Bf-109. The Lightning was designed to be itself. That difference, the willingness to abandon preconceptions, may have cost us the war. Even in defeat, he understood. Too late, but he understood. Glacier Girl recovered from Greenland ice after 50 years. White Lightning, owned by a tech billionaire who pays $3,000 per hour in operating costs. Marge, a replica tribute to Richard Bong's original aircraft. When they fly, the sound is unmistakable. That twin-engine growl, the unique off-sync harmony of counter-rotating propellers. People look up, point. Children ask their parents, what kind of plane makes that noise? And for 30 seconds, the sky belongs to 1943 again. To a time when young men flew impossible aircraft into impossible odds, and somehow, impossibly, won. A restored Lightning takes off from Chino Airport, California. Pilot, a 67-year-old retired airline captain who saved for a decade to afford the flight. At 10,000 feet, he pushes the throttles forward. Both Allison V1710 engines roar, 2,850 horsepower combined. The airframe accelerates, 300 miles per hour, 350, 380. He smiles behind the oxygen mask, his hands warm in the cockpit, the controls crisp and responsive. Below, California's Central Valley. Above, endless blue. He thinks about Kelly Johnson, about Bong and McGuire, about 10,037 Lightnings built, about a war won by people who refused to accept impossible. The radio crackles. Lightning November 3-8. You're cleared to maneuver. He rolls inverted, those twin booms silhouetted against the sun, pulls through, climbs. At 15,000 feet, he levels off, looks out at the horizon, thinks, this is what they built, this is what they flew, this is what they bet their lives on. And for 60 minutes of flight time, history lives again. Twin-engine fighters are harder to build, are more complex. are heavier than single-engine designs. But they were wrong about what matters. In war, superior performance doesn't come from following rules. It comes from rewriting them. The P-38. Lightning didn't just fight a war. It proved that the best answer to "that's impossible" is "watch me." 10,037. P-38. Lightnings built. 1. 800-plus Japanese aircraft destroyed in the Pacific. 1. 300-plus German aircraft destroyed in Europe. America's top two aces, Bong, 40, and McGuire, 38, flew P-38s exclusively. Last combat mission, August 9, 1945. Production ended, September 1945. Cost per aircraft, $97,147, $1945. Equivalent today, $1.60 million. China. Flying examples remaining, approximately 12 worldwide. That's immeasurable. The Lightning proved that sometimes the experts are wrong. Sometimes the farm kid with a slide rule sees what the professors miss. Sometimes the impossible just means no one's tried hard enough yet. And sometimes, just sometimes,